Hi guys, so CL Strife was asking me, one of my faithful and ever active and imaginative followers, was asking whether I thought there could be INFJ influencers. Um, it's a funny question. It's a great question. It's not the question that is funny, it's the concept when I think of it. It could be linked to, this is something that I should say straight away, right? I'm not a big young INFJ at this point. I'm a middle-aged INFJ. I'm 37 years old, and it's possible that some of what I say is colored, at least in part, by that. So I'm just aware there's a possibility, and it's very hard for me to be completely conscious of it. So that's just a little, proviso that I want to share with you to start with. But, when I think of the idea of INFJ influencers, I wince a little bit. Not because the concept of being an influencer is necessarily like ridiculous or risible to me. Like it is. I have no interest whatsoever in social media influencers. I look at the phenomenon with like perplexity and a certain level of, I don't want to say disdain, but I just think this all sounds so pointless. And this is probably also partly linked to my age. I think it's probably linked to my type and my age. So that's a potent mix that is going to predispose me to just trying to avoid those people and the followers of those people like the plague. Except, those who follow those people because they think it's fun or they think that they might get some interesting information, but don't take them, like the whole concept of following too seriously. Of course, these people are fine, and there's many of us who are like that, but the concept of an INFJ influencer is a weird one to me. I'm going to be cautious because I think intellectual caution is justified in this case, and say that it must be possible for an INFJ to be an influencer, but I'd say that it will be rare, and rare not because INFJs are too shy or too introverted or too private, or too humble. Some of these adjectives, can be pertinently applied to many INFJs, but it's more so that being an influencer requires you to be very much kind of clued into the moment. And INFJs don't work like that. INFJs don't work like that. INFJs work over what I call in this book, right? In my latest book, The Infinite Soul and the INFJ. It's an important concept, particularly on the chapter 2 on love. On how INFJs relate to love, but usually these particular themes in the book are windows onto like broader ways of understanding how INFJs work as holistic people in general. The longue durée, right? So I know that I have a few French francophone viewers, so they will understand the longue durée or long duration. It's a concept taken from, that I appropriated from history. Historians that consider that if you write a book that is a history of France, but you're just looking at like a series of events that happen over 2 centuries or whatever, it's going to be less informative than if you look at the history of France or another country, starting from way further back and looking at changes that unfold over longer periods, but are more they're more subterranean in a way, and they're also more profound as variables that dictate how countries work, what countries are. The longue durée is it's very much a relevant aspect of how to understand INFJ's temporality, INFJ's relationship to time. That has everything to do with the NI world, of course. The NI world and the archetypes are very connected concepts. What are the archetypes? They are by definition extremely temporally stretched out and yet very condensed, what would you call them, like entities in your psyche that have been aggregating the wisdom of the ages in a way and allow you to function according to these particular paradigms, among other things. And, there's nothing instantaneous, there's nothing influencer-like about an archetype. So the INFJ mind, so far it is connected to the NI world, is just not going to be clued into very fast-paced temporalities. And to me, that's just, incompatible with being an influencer. Now, if you artificially broaden your concept of an influencer to anyone who uses social media and has some degree of influence over a certain section of the population, then of course you can include INFJs, because according to that definition, I might even want to claim that I am an influencer. Insofar as some people read my books, think those books are interesting, maybe my books and my videos influence the way they conceive of themselves and their relationship to their type, then okay, there's a level of influence. Does that mean I'm an influencer? No. I'm really sticking to the notion of a social media influencer, like on Twitter, like on Instagram, like on these platforms that I'm not a member of, and on YouTube too. They exist on YouTube, of course, and probably apps that I'm not aware of. But there's this instantaneous temporality that attaches to the concept of being an influencer in this more restricted, but therefore more meaningful sense, because we don't want to overextend the concepts until it just means nothing anymore. From that perspective, it's very incompatible with the temporality of introvert intuition. So INFJ influencers, no. INTJ influencers, no. Okay? But let me know in the comments if you disagree. Let's have a debate. Maybe what I just said will be controversial. Okay? Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget that I've written 2 books on the INFJ, The Infinite Soul, INFJ Life in the Modern World, on how INFJs interact with external reality. Often they find it hostile, difficult to live within. But this book looks in depth at the various modalities you can embrace to have a good life as an INFJ. If you love the book, I haven't reviewed it yet on Amazon. The reviews help massively. So if you could just take a few minutes or maybe just leave a rating, that'd be really, really appreciated. The previous book, the prequel, The Ecstatic Soul, is more about the inside of the INFJ mind, what it's like to have an INFJ mind, an INFJ consciousness, and its existential manifestations. Deepest investigation you'll find. It's very well reviewed. Check it out. All the links are below, as well as my Patreon page. Patreon is the lifeblood of my channel. I depend on donations to keep the channel going, so please consider either a one-off donation via PayPal. The link is right next to the Patreon one, or Patreon. You can access to bonus content, in-depth discussions of themes of my books and my videos on YouTube. You get access to, me, you can interact with me directly, suggest content for videos, and the community that's growing. Consider it, please, and I'll talk to you next time, guys.